Well, good morning. Welcome. It's Wednesday, June 12th, 2019. We're here for our weekly board session in the Senator Hearing Room at 555 Court Street. And as always, if you will join us, we start our board sessions with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So good morning. I was just sharing with my colleagues that started out at Detroit Lake this morning at about 5 a.m. and it was beautiful. And I didn't see any algae either. I think we're going to talk about water today. And of course, I wasn't inspecting the water by the dam that nice, but it was a beautiful drive down. It's like going through a time warp between here and the canyon. We have a presentation this morning on drinking water. Speaking of algae, I shouldn't say that because we don't have any yet that we know of. Oh, I almost had perfection today.
You were right there.
Huh?
You were right there.
I was almost there until I forgot public comment, which is the most important thing. We do have two people signed up for public comment. Everett Horvath? If you'd like to come over here, Everett, to the side, and introduce yourself for the record, please, and welcome. Glad you're here this morning. Yes, sit right there, and make sure you speak into the microphone. Just identify yourself.
Good morning.
Address.
My name is Everett Horvath. I'm a combat disabled veteran. I was up on North Fork Road a couple weekends ago, and I noticed that there's a day use fee or a parking fee. And I know it's only $5. It doesn't seem like much. However, there are a lot of disabled veterans where $5 is a lot of money to them. And so I did some research to try and find out if there's any exemption for disabled veterans, and I couldn't find any. So I was wondering if there's a possibility that could happen. I don't want to burden the county with any more bureaucracy or red tape, but perhaps using Oregon-issued disabled veterans plates as an exemption from that fee.
Well, appreciate your service, first of all, to our country. Thank you very much for that. We implemented that 2 years ago. This will be its third summer that we've had that fee. The BLM has a fee and the Forest Service has a fee. Did you do any research? I'm just curious. We can have staff do this. Did you do any research on their $5 fees?
Yes, they are exempted for disabled veterans.
Great. Well, one of the things, and I really appreciate you coming here today, because one of the things we're trying to do is make that canyon consistent for the public. Because people don't go up there and think, well, this is a federal park, this is a county park. So really appreciate you bringing that, and we'll do some research and see what we can do to make it consistent in the canyon.
Thank you for your time, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thanks, Everett. Again, thanks for your service to our country. Gene Pfeiffer. Welcome, Gene.
Good morning.
Introduce yourself.
Gene Pfeiffer, 1392 South Water Street, Silverton. And my topics, interestingly enough, are water also. So I have two topics. One is Drift Creek Dam, and the second one is Detroit Reservoir. I'll start with Drift Creek. I've had the experience of living on the Silver Creek about a quarter mile below the Silverton Dam since 1960. My experience goes earlier than that as well, but been being there consistently, and it's an environment of solid basalt, so I can always see the water changing and conditions in the water. So over the last 3 summers, and I'm going to do it again this summer, I measured the water in July, the temperature 84 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is the influence of the dam, the water coming off from that. And the thing that's been very notable, and especially last summer, it's the first time I've ever seen carp behind where I live, that close to the dam. The carp used there down in the Pudding River. And the predominant fish in the summertime are suckers, chub, carp, bluegill, and catfish. And if you can be surprised that that's what they're. I don't see any trout. So we typically over the years have been thought of the game fish. We used to have a salmon run, steelhead run. We still have cutthroat. But relative to the Drift Creek Dam, I would like to encourage you, and I know that this group allowed or commissioned water or a fund of $750,000 or something like that to the East Valley Committee District, and I've gone to their meetings. But we need to look at something different rather than having a dam that lets out water into an environment that is not friendly to that riparian zone, that we can do it differently. And the example I'll give to that is the Abaquaw transmission line that takes water from the Abaquaw, brings it over to Silverton, actually goes down into the valley and goes back up. The difference in elevation is perhaps 100 feet, but that's enough for it to deliver water without any pumping or anything else. So in the case of Drift Creek, this is a group of farmers fighting with each other, that we could have a very small coffer dam, just enough to collect water at a pipe, and have this water delivered in the winter time, so winter harvest of water. And in fact, my example I'm talking to you could be done all over the state when we're talking about loss of water and availability of water. But just 5 or 6 months during the high water lines, it wouldn't be affecting the fish or other things by taking that water off, and then have it go down to an elevation that would be a large reservoir that could be dug in, not a dam, and so that the farmers could have valves that actually distribute water to the valley under pressure. Again, no pumping system required. What has to happen by the East Water District, they're thinking, it will let water go down the Drift Creek and then they'll be pumping it, and this is costing all kinds of problems. And I'm particularly concerned about what happens with the environment and also the hazards. In the case of Drift Creek, there aren't the hazards as we have with the Silverton Dam, but if there was a failure or earthquake or whatever the case. But we're spending a lot of money for something that does not sustainably take care of us. So that's the image of that one. I don't know how much my time is, so I'll shift over to Detroit Reservoir. First time, of course, many of us were aware of it was when the newspaper announced that the Army Corps of Engineers is going to put this tower in. At first it was $400 million. Now the paper comes out about 2 weeks ago and says possibly $500 million to do something that we don't even know if it'll work. And my opinion is that when we have money that's taken from the big reservoir of funds nationwide, it takes away from other funds. So if we're going to be wasting money, we should take a really good close look at it. First of all, I know that a design is in the development that would put this system in at maybe a cost of $75 million and would not have to drain the reservoir at all and be a lot less dangerous to the construction workers because it'd be minimum exposure to be working in the water. And when I looked at it, I thought, well, even $75 million is a lot. What is the real problem? The problem is we have many dams, evident also in the Snake River, et cetera, where we don't have fish ladders. Now, the conditions that we have on the Santiam River are very difficult to put a fish ladder in, but there's a design and development that provides a vertical fish ladder on a 1,600 square foot footprint, which would take the salmon up and be able to get them on their own across the top of the dam. And I think that that's the kind of thing that we should be looking at. It really would be helpful to those species. Right now, what I understand is adding this warmer water is just simply going to encourage or let some salmon that are waiting down in the Willamette or wherever that, hey guys, it's time to go up, the water's getting warmer. Well, one of the problems with that is we're also drawing off water off the top, which is where algae best grows, where it has lots of sunshine. So we're doing something that's contrary to the good interests of humans using the water as well. So this is something that I think we could have a discussion on, a work session or whatever you want to call it, where we can consider these kinds of things in lieu of what's currently out there, rather than just throwing mud at the wall and hoping that it sticks. We need to look at some things that will be practical and sustainable.
Okay, thank you very much, Gene. Only comment I would make is that Army Corps has total jurisdiction. They are open for comments right now on their preferred alternative, and I'd suggest that you give all that comments to the Army Corps and through their website. That's where it needs to go. So
Is there a, I think
We
there
don't
was
have any-
is there a meeting coming up, or?
They just had 3 meetings, and they still have, their website's still open. I don't know till when, but there's a short window.
June 28th.
June 28th, so you can go into their website and give that feedback to them.
Okay, well, I would
We don't make those
encourage in the authority and of course that the commissioners have, and you certainly have a stake in both the topics I've mentioned, to
we've
be able to influence them if you can believe in it.
We have, and we've given them our feedback on the project as well, so
right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so thank you for the public comments, and nobody else has signed up. We're going to move into our presentation on water with the City of Salem and Marion County Drinking Water Advisory presentation. And I believe we have somebody from Public Works at the City of Salem and some people from our health department. So I'm kind of thirsty. Let me have a drink first.
It's kind of green.
And it's not green.
Slimy? Slimy? Is it slimy in there?
Note that the other commissioner has a water bottle now too. I'm really proud of him. Yeah,
Look at
none of that plastic
Yeah.
stuff.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Katrina Rothenberger. I'm the Public Health Division Director for Marion County Health and Human Services. We're really happy today to come and talk to you in partnership with the City of Salem to demonstrate our coordination throughout this potential for harmful algae blooms. And we just want to share with you the work that the city has done and the role of the County Health Department should a harmful algae bloom occur. So I'm going to invite the rest of the panel up and they can introduce themselves.
We just have the one microphone today, so you'll have to.
I'll make it work. Good morning,
Play away.
Commissioners. I'm Peter Fernandez. I'm the City of Salem Public Works Director. With me is Courtney Knox-Bush, who is our Information Officer, Communications Officer at the city. We have a brief presentation for you this morning that actually we've been conducting at a number of venues. I'm happy to say that it's been very well received. We've been to the Chamber, we've been to SEDCOR, we've been to neighborhood associations and others to really talk a little bit about what happened last year and what we've done to prepare this year for not the eventuality, the fact that we will have algae and we will have toxins, but the issue isn't that they're there. The issue is, as a water provider, is how do we fight them and make sure that they don't get into the finished water. So Courtney will take it away for us, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Welcome, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. As Peter mentioned, we've been doing this presentation, letting everybody know what we've been doing to prepare for this coming algae season, as well as the next algae season until in 2021, we're able to have ozone in place, which will take care of it for us moving forward. So just 2 quick points before we get into the details about what we've been doing. We need a little bit of orientation for everyone. Just a quick reminder that the drinking water that Salem relies on, as well as our drinking water customers and other communities we serve, comes from the North Santiam River, which is fed by Detroit Lake, as you referenced earlier, Commissioner Cameron. Thank you. Quickly, to orient everyone, it's about 800 square miles, and there are many, many uses that occur in and around Detroit, as well as the North Santiam River. Timber harvesting, as we know, there are 2 core dams, and then there's a whole bunch of other power and wind generation that occurs everywhere. The river itself is 26 miles flowing between Big Cliff and the water treatment facility Salem has at Guerin Island. This is what it looked like last summer. What are cyanotoxins anyway, and where do they come from? So they come from the blue-green algae blooms. When they die off, they create this toxin, and that is what we dealt with a lot last summer. We don't really know why it's occurring more now. We've been studying cyanotoxins and testing for them since 2011, and last year was the first year that they appeared in our drinking water supply. We have some suspicions, and there's some different ideas that are being analyzed through a whole bunch of wonderful partnerships we've got with a bunch of people that like to study these things. There's a lot more nutrients in the soil from forest fires and other things that have been occurring, and that's getting into the water, as well as the heat and the depth of the water source. All of those things contribute, and we don't really know all of the details. So this is how we generally treat water, and it's important to note, I think, that there are 45 million gallons a day that we're treating in the high peak season and 22 in the slow season in the winter months. And what we've learned last year has to do with the regular treatment and then everything that we added to help us get through the season. So we have 6 slow sand filters out there, and these are generally the size of football fields. So adjust your mind for a minute about that. It's really large, and it takes a dozer to scrape them and get them ready again. 14 inches of sand with a little tiny bit of biomass. They call it a schmutzdecke, which is fun to say. Some people go schmutzdecke. I prefer schmutzdecke. But it's a little layer of biomass. It's the good bugs that eat the bad stuff for us and help us treat the water before it trickles through that 14 inches of sand. What we learned last year is that a healthy biomass tends to do really well with cyanotoxins. They started to develop an appetite last year, and so that was really good. We continued to see high level of cyanotoxins in the water coming into the plant that was dealt with by a healthy biomass layer. So that's cool. Nature works. It responds to things that are happening in this natural and dynamic system. So what we're doing this year to get ready is we're feeding that biolayer. It's acetic acid or vinegar. We're feeding it to help it grow early and be ready. And so that's all taken place and we're ready. Another thing that we learned is chlorine. We generally add small amounts of chlorine as a disinfectant, which I'm sure we all appreciate as we drink our water every day. We can use a little bit more, a little boost, and it has an oxidizing effect. And so it'll just kind of kill the cyanotoxins just like that for us. And so we've learned as we head into this season that we can do that boosting of chlorine and take it back down to normal levels before it reaches our distribution system. So that's another treatment that we have added in this last season, for this coming season. We talked a lot about powdered activated carbon last year, and that's sort of carbon binding to these toxins, and it gets heavy and falls to the bottom and moves the toxins out of the stream before it starts going into all of our slow sand filters. It's a pre-treatment. And we were really pleased to be able to add it. I was amazed. Our engineers did that in 16 days in real time. They said, well, we have a problem. Powdered activated carbon works. What kind? It turns out there are variable kinds of carbon sources. And they had it in place in 16 days while serving the 45 million gallon demand, which is really impressive. If you know engineers, that's really impressive that they were able to do that in real time. We've learned a lot in the off-season about how that works and how to make it work better. It turns out it just needs a lot more time in contact to be able to work effectively, and so we've done some things out on the island to give the carbon more space to interact with our water, more time, before it gets into the slow sand filters. So, and we've learned a lot about a bunch of other things we were adding to make the carbon work better weren't really needed. And so we're just going straight with carbon, and that'll be an added treatment if and when things start to look a little bit more scary, as they did last year. So here's how it all works. The numbers, Log Boom 1, Big Cliff Dam 2, Guerin Island, which is our intake, so that's where the water comes into the system, and the outfall is Aldersgate number 4. Those are our primary sampling sites that guide our treatment as we move into this season. So what we are doing is, if, for example, at Log Boom, we see some evidence of cyanotoxins, we're going to increase our sampling from 3 days a week to 5 days a week. And then we're going to be adding little bits of chlorine to see how that impacts the cyanotoxins by the time they get to our Guerin Island intake, and then go into the whole treatment system, which again is that slow sand filter, adding chlorine, and doing the powdered activated carbon if we need to. So right now, we have small amounts at Log Boom, and so we are going to 5 days a week sampling and adding chlorine. And so far, we're not seeing evidence of those toxins traveling downstream and getting into the drinking water system. We also, what's new, is that we've got testing on site. You might remember last year it was really confusing. We had to send our water sampling out via FedEx, I think, or UPS, and it was going to another state and then coming back to us. The samples were coming back. And sometimes that would get a little bit tricky, you know. UPS isn't always on time, FedEx isn't always on time. And so there could be a data lag, and it would also take 3 days to get those sample results back. So we were telling people your water is safe to drink 3 days ago. Now what we've been able to do is bring the testing in-house. And out at our Willow Lake treatment facility, we have the ELISA system in-house, and now we have a backup as well, so that if one goes down, we're ready with the second. And we can provide results that the day after the sampling is occurring. So much tighter time frame, much more surety, and we're able to do more quickly to add treatment systems into place so we can take care of the drinking water. Another thing that's different from last year is that we have Oregon Health Authority rules. And last year we did not. We were working under EPA guidelines and with Oregon Health Authority trying to muddle through. This year we have rules. And we are testing for 2 of the cyanotoxins, the microcystin and this, cylindrospermostin. And it tells us what we have to test for, where, and when, how often. And it gives us a more solid framework for when we need to start telling people that there is evidence of cyanotoxins in the water supply. So what we're doing to help communicate that is we've got this chart over here on the right side of the screen. Right now we are in that cyanotoxins detected, that first light orange. The water is still safe to drink, but it just tells you where we have noted cyanotoxins, how often we're testing, and what we're doing to treat the water. All of this information is available on our website. We're doing some social media posting, which was really successful last year in terms of engaging people and answering questions that people had. We're also doing press releases, and we have the community alert system, which is a sign-up, opt-in sort of a system and available on our website that people can get phone calls, emails, or texts based on a variety of addresses that they might supply us that are of interest to them. So this also works for traffic accidents and other kinds of things. So that's how people are going to become aware if conditions change. And we are also ready to distribute bulk water again. That was also very successful last year in terms of getting water out to folks who needed it. We have already identified 8 sites again that we'll be using, and we have the source water identified through relationships with other people that are part of a network of drinking water providers. And we're going to also be relying again on Marion Food Share and Northwest Senior and Disability Services to get water out to people who can't come to us, should we need. We also put everything in one place on our website. That was also challenging last year. It was hard for people to keep up and keep abreast of what was happening that day. And so we are posting our water quality testing results daily again, now that we're into a 5-day-a-week testing regimen. And those are available on our website, as well as everything you could possibly want to know about cyanotoxins and the source water. We've got some story maps that help people understand where it comes from and what some of the influences are to the water system. Part of our messaging is also about 2 weeks ready. The last summer was a good reminder to many of us, including myself, that we need to be 2 weeks ready for any kind of natural disaster or other emergency. And it was a good reminder last year, and we're out reminding people again that it's important to be 2 weeks ready. We're borrowing from the state campaign. And then the last thing you should know is that we're going to be taking all of these treatment measures this algae season and the next algae season as we are designing and building an ozone treatment system. This is a state-of-the-art water treatment system that's in use all over the country and all over the world. And we are excited to design a system that works to handle our demand and have it in place by 2021. It's about $40 million. It's probably a little bit more now, and we're doing it out of our existing rate base by deferring some priority projects in our community. So that's everything that there is to know about our preparation. Do you have any questions for us?
No. thank you for all your work on this. I sure appreciate it.
Yes, I do, but I don't know quite where to start. One I was just thinking of, and it's just because it never gets mentioned, fishing the river a lot. I know roughly 20% new water comes in from the Little North Fork after Detroit. You might be able to test for it at Guerin Island. I'm certain you do, but do you go up and look anywhere? Is that something on your radar to keep track of what's happening there too?
Yes, Commissioner. It's funny, that sometimes people see our staff in a boat and they think they're out fishing. They're actually out sampling water, not just up in the reservoir, but also looking in other locations and other tributaries. So all the tributaries to the North Santiam River, upriver from Guerin Island, are all important to us, and
You're looking at it.
we do take a look.
And
Yes.
the last that I don't understand, it seems like these toxins are in solution, aren't they? But
Yes.
Courtney, you said it's from when the algae dies.
Right.
So but then you mentioned you kill the cyanotoxins. That isn't the true case. You might break them up. They're not a living organism. They're a poison in the water that needs to be removed.
That
right?
is correct. They are not a living organism. They are a product in the water, if you will, and they need to be oxidized.
So like ozone, I would think of it as killing algae. That isn't really what you're doing now, but it must break up the toxin molecule in some way.
Exactly right. And just a little more about ozone, because we've used slow sand filtration for 80 years, and it is the most economical, most environmentally sensitive way to treat drinking water. And that comes, we've been able to do that because of how good the source water is. Slow sand filtration requires that. That's why you don't see it in a lot of other parts of the country. You see it a lot in England, you don't see it a lot in the United States. With the toxins and with other issues that are evolving, every now and then we have a tanker that overturns on the highway, or we're seeing other pollutants, other things happening. We felt we needed to move toward making the investment to become a little more mechanical in our water treatment, and that's why we're making the investments, primarily for the algae, but it will also be useful for really anything that develops in the future up in our watershed. So that's what the ozone's all about, and it is a great way to treat all kinds of things. Wilsonville uses ozone as a treatment system.
Great.
So
Then I learned something from Peter. I'm not fishing any longer, I'm water sampling. That should expand my opportunity. That'll be great.
That's, yeah, when you don't catch, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just
Professional development.
Right. You're done?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so I did have a question, and maybe further on in the presentation, we'll get the answer, but you talked about an alert system, Courtney, based on toxins, and I know there's two alert systems here. There's one for the drinking water issue, there's another one for the recreation issue. Or is somebody here going to talk about that and the possible confusion? I was at Detroit City Council meeting last night. They were talking about the algae and where they were, et cetera, and who's communicating with them. So
yeah, let me open up the conversation then. So there is a big difference, and sometimes to our residents and our customers, there's some confusion because algae, if you're swimming in it, can cause skin rashes. If your dog eats it, it can be fatal to animals at the source up in Detroit. That's very different from the issues that we have as a water provider after it's gone through treatment. There's no algae in our treatment system, in our finished water, and there may or may not be toxins if we're not successful in fighting them off. So, and even what you'd see in our finished water is very small trace amounts. So even any kind of indication is really at the very lowest levels is what we saw. Although of course we're going for zero. So there is confusion. There's often confusion when there is an alert about algae in the reservoir. So with that.
yeah, and my point being is for years we've been getting alerts on algae in the reservoir, and I'm really concerned that there's this hypersensitivity of people here in the valley now. When those alerts come, they're going to go, okay, now my water's tainted, right?
Right.
So where are we with that?
So Commissioner Cameron, we, the city, have already drafted a notice, a public notice that we will send out when and if there is a recreational advisory in Detroit. We've already got one drafted that just lets our water customers know about what that means to them, that it's a really clear indication that there could be a higher concentration of cyanotoxins coming into the water system, and that we're ready and we have all these treatment systems in place. And it's also a good indication or a time to consider how you might be prepared should the algae and then the toxins lead to a drinking water advisory. So we're asking people at that point, we've already got a release ready that just says, hey, now's the time to get ready. If you haven't already gotten ready, now's the time, because it may be that this could lead to
Okay.
more toxins in the drinking
And
water.
Jolene's out here, so we make sure we see that release.
Oh, yes.
My concern is those two marinas up there, when that release comes out, right? Their business goes, right?
So it's the Oregon Health Authority that makes the determination about whether there should be a recreational advisory. We, the city, are often made aware as those notices are released to the community at large when OHA makes those determinations.
Jolene, do you have copies of that release, of what that's going to look like?
I don't, but I'm certainly get that.
Okay,
It's
I
very
think that's
easy.
really important, because there's going to be this hypersensitivity
Yes.
of when that comes out. And that's going to come out before you do a water announcement, I'm sure, because it's happened every summer for the last, 10 that I can remember.
Yes, and just for clarification, Oregon Health Authority will issue that recreational advisory notice with or without contributions from us.
Correct. But you're going to add to the contributions now,
Yes.
which you didn't do in the past.
Right.
So
That's gonna be
it's-
our cue to start letting people know about what that means for our drinking water. And we do a lot of coordination with Marion County through Jolene Kelly all the time. We were so grateful to have her sitting in our Joint Information Center last summer
Yeah.
over those 6 weeks where we were actively letting people know about the water.
I'm really glad you're here today, because I'd like to see that press release, what it's
Perfect.
going to say, so that we do the best we can to tell people, hey, you still go up there and have a good time, just be careful.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Or I don't know where we're at in the presentation.
Well, Mr. Chair, might I ask a question?
You want me to swim in the toxins,
Yeah, I
John?
do.
Yeah.
I have a chemistry question for you, Peter.
Oh, wow.
As you know, chlorine is a highly oxidizing agent, and anybody who's taken even rudimentary chemistry knows how it works. But what my worry is that if you use chlorine in that water and it gets into the biomass, it kills the biomass too, doesn't it?
Right, so the chlorine is applied afterwards.
Oh,
So,
okay.
that-
What I heard was you were applying it.
Sure, I
upstream.
can understand the confusion. Yeah, the chlorine
Okay.
is applied afterwards as a final,
Okay.
treatment. We always do that, but one of the things that's kind of the final attack on the toxin is we will boost, we try to use as little chlorine as possible, so we're well below the EPA limits. We will boost the chlorine, even at the higher boosts, we will still be within the EPA limits, but it affects taste, it affects our brewers, it affects, any other food production. So we have actually invested this year in chlorine reducers. So before the water gets into it, we'll have the contact time through the pipes going into Turner, and then we will reduce the chlorine back to our normal levels before it gets into the system.
Okay. Okay. Katrina, where are we going?
My name is Elisa Zastopel, and I'm the supervisor for Marion County Environmental Health. Thank you, commissioners, for letting me come here to speak today. Today, I'm actually going to talk about Marion County's role when it comes to public drinking water systems. And so this first slide that's up here is just an overview of public drinking water systems in Marion County. Oregon Health Authority has been tasked with regulating all public drinking water systems in the state of Oregon. That's about 3,600 water systems, and Drinking Water Services has a small staff, so they have contracted the work out to the counties and also to Oregon Department of Agriculture. So they use certain criteria to identify who is going to regulate what water system. And what you guys need to understand is that any water system that has a population of over 3,300 users is regulated by Oregon Health Authority. So that is going to be all of our large drinking water systems, which is City of Salem, Woodburn, Kaiser. Any of those big systems are under Oregon Health Authority. The other criteria that they used to determine who would regulate was also where the source of the water came from. So it's surface water or if it's groundwater. Surface water, like shown in the picture up there, is drawn from rivers like the Santiam River or an open reservoir like Detroit Lake. So anybody that is surface water is also regulated by Oregon Health Authority. And then for any of the systems that have that smaller population where it's under 3,300 people, or it's groundwater, which is water that comes from a well, which is shown down in that lower corner, or is purchased water, where they purchase it from another water system, will be regulated either by the county or by Department of Agriculture. So you can see that according to the pie chart, there's a large number of water systems that are regulated by Marion County, approximately 192 systems. And that represents about 48,000 people. These are all groundwater. They will not be impacted by the cyanotoxins. Groundwater is not affected by cyanotoxins. You'll see that a small slice, the green slice, is Oregon Department of Agriculture. That's about 19 systems in our county. They became regulators because they licensed the facilities. They're usually wineries or they're food processing plants. Once again, they're all groundwater. They're not going to be affected by cyanotoxin. There's only about 2,000 users on these systems. And then the slice of red represents what Oregon Health Authority regulates. There's about 17 systems that they regulate. There's 303,000 users represented in that small slice, and this is where City of Salem falls. So we just kind of wanted everybody to understand who has regulatory authority in the county. So the City of Salem did mention new rules had gone into effect about cyanotoxins that are statewide rules, and only certain systems in the state of Oregon were required to follow these rules. They were identified as being susceptible to harmful algal blooms. They were identified through DEQ doing their own testing, and also if they had advisory reported, like the recreational advisory, if one had shown up, they became susceptible. So in our county, in Marion County, the places that are susceptible are City of Gates, City of Jefferson, State and Water Supply, Salem Public Works, which is City of Salem, and then under Salem Public Works, there's City of Turner and Suburban East Salem Water District. Turner and Suburban East are identified because they purchase water from City of Salem. And then also there's a little bit about Lyons Mahama Water District. They are officially in Lynn County and regulated by Oregon Health Authority, but some of their residents live in Marion County. So any of these systems potentially could have an algae situation crop up. So they had mentioned the new cyanotoxin rules. The rules were emergency rules back in July of 2018 once the advisory was issued for City of Salem. They became statewide and permanent January 1st of 2019. What you guys need to know is that the rules require any system identified as being susceptible has to begin testing for cyanotoxins during the algae bloom season, and that's going to be May 1st through October 31st. What happens is they have to start testing at their raw water intake initially. If they have a detection, the law requires that they do additional testing in different places. And then if they have a testing result that is above what they consider the action level, a level that is unsafe, they have to take a confirmation sample. Once it's confirmed, if it's confirmed, they have to issue a do not drink advisory. The final part of the rule is that there now is language that directs when that advisory can be removed. As City of Salem had said, that was missing last year. Now there's testing requirements so that they know when they can remove the advisory. So what environmental health and health and human services role would be in the case we do go into a do not drink advisory situation is environmental health licenses a number of facilities in the county. That's going to be restaurants, mobile units, hotels, camps. What we will do is issue guidance to all of these facilities. We will notify them immediately once we know. We will give them placards to post. An example of the placard is up there on the board. That one was familiar to everybody last year. It was for the vulnerable populations. Also, environmental health will be available for answering questions to the public in our office, out in the field, and also if we're in the Emergency Operations Center, which we will staff if we're requested to be there. And then the other thing that environmental health will do is we will inspect the water distribution sites that the city is planning on setting up if needed. We'll go out and make sure that the water is being issued in a safe and sanitary manner. And that's pretty much what we will be doing. So if anybody has any questions.
John?
For those who are on wells, and I know that some wells in Marion County have some problems, how do you deal with those problems, such as arsenic in the water?
On wells that have the arsenic situation, if they're a public water system, they're required to test for that. And when there are detections, if it's above the threshold, then they're required to install treatment. If it's a private well, it is under the owner's direction, but we will offer advice for treatment that they can do for that well.
Thank you, John. Alyssa, thank you for your presentation. I have a question. Did OHA have the authority over Salem's water supply last year?
Yes, they did.
That's interesting. Well, hopefully they'll be better at it this year. Okay, where are we in the presentation?
We are finished. We just wanted to share with you all of the work that's gone into coordination, offer the City of Salem another public venue to share their presentation and just talk about, keeping this at the forefront of the conversation.
Okay. We didn't catch that on the microphone, but we appreciate that. So any other comments before our guests leave? Great. Thank you very much. It's really good, and I think this will be up on Facebook Live, so we'll promote it to try to get the word out. Appreciate all you're doing.
A lot of thought and effort given. It certainly should be a better response if we have trouble this year.
Yeah. I think the big thing out of that presentation, or out of what happened last year, was two things happened. One was how unprepared individual families and people are for emergencies. And the second thing was it brought a substantial highlight to how important our water supply was up at Detroit Lake. At the same time, the Army Corps was looking at draining the reservoir for 3 years. So really appreciate, sometimes bad things happen that are positive, and good things have come out of that, the preparation that you all have done and the awareness that we're building in our community. So thank you very much. We're going to move on to our consent calendar.
Chair Cameron, if I could, I'd make a motion to approve that list this morning. On it, under Business Services, we approve Amendment 4 to the lease agreement with Oregon State Hospital to add $43,200 to the Marion County Health and Human Services Cottage R03 and extend the term through June 30th, 2022. Approve Amendment 5 to the lease agreement with Oregon State Hospital to add $36,000 for the Marion County Health and Human Services Cottage, which is R14, and extend that term through June 30th, 2022. Finance, approve an order revising Policy 407, that annual audits. Health and Human Services, approve an order to schedule a public hearing for June 26, 2019 for the application to transfer the franchise for Ambulance Service Area Number 5 to the new ownership of Woodburn Ambulance Services Incorporated. Sheriff's Office, approve an intergovernmental agreement for incoming funds in the amount of $194,688 with the City of Aurora to provide patrol services. That's it.
I second the motion.
You have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, that's done. Our first action item under Board of Commissioners is to consider an order approving the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission Specialty Court Grant Program application for $2,864,762.70 for the 2019-21 biennium. And I believe Melissa is here. If you want to come over to the side, Melissa. Oh, do you have a presentation?
Looks like it.
Okay, right up front. Yeah, thank you. Is this the presentation that presiding judge gave us yesterday at our Public Safety Coordinating Council?
Do you need to see it?
You're going to get it twice.
They need to see it. I'll give it for her. Yeah, okay, great.
Really?
Yeah, no, it was a great presentation. She did a good job and boom. So, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Make sure you get that microphone close to them.
My name's Melissa Miller. I am here representing the Marion County Circuit Court today. I am currently operating 3 of our 5 treatment courts here in the county, and we're here to give a presentation that was given last night to the local Public Safety Coordinating Council and seeking your approval to move forward with this grant application.
And then I'm Ryan Matthews with Marion County Health and Human Services, and we are going to be taking over the role of fiscal administration of the specialty court grants. So I'm just here to show support to the great program that we're going to be involved with.
And I want to thank, I see Carrie out there, and thank your department for taking on that fiscal responsibility. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very excited about this new partnership. Thank you. So as I am sure some of you are aware, we are currently operating 5 treatment courts here in Marion County. And the idea of a treatment court is to reduce the recidivism and substance use disorders that are so commonly occurring when we have people who are committing crimes and being entered into the justice system. We want to increase the likelihood of success for these individuals and assist them in ways that maybe they didn't have an opportunity in their past, including employment opportunities or obtaining GEDs, something to give them a future so that they're able to become a productive member of our society. All of our courts are designed to meet with these participants at least weekly. So they'll be coming before a judge once a week. They are randomly tested for a variety of drugs in their system, no less than 10 times a month. So every morning they're required to get up, call a hotline, and if they have to go do a drug test, then they have to do a drug test. If it's positive, they're answering to the judicial officer for that court that week. We also are hoping to enhance our public safety by just addressing that root cause of the offender's involvement in our program and the court system. Currently, in 2010, the Oregon Judicial Department, as you know, had a budget reduction that eliminated all of our treatment courts here in Marion County. The Criminal Justice Commission was awarded some money at the last minute in the legislative session, and they were able to fund 8 counties that eliminated their courts entirely. So our courts are completely dependent on Criminal Justice Commission funding and have been since 2010. We continue to seek reinstatement of those positions in our general fund, but at this time we're not able to do so. So we are once again at the table of the Criminal Justice Commission requesting additional money. Some of the in-kind funding that we have are the judicial officers, our judicial clerks that are providing services during court sessions. We have deputy district attorneys that serve on all of our court bodies. A probation officer is present for all of our court sessions and all of our team meetings for those clients. We are fortunate to get some small donation funds that we use for incentives for participants for doing the things that they're required to do. It could be some kind of just a small token, a gift card, or allowing them to maybe purchase some supplies to do something that they're interested in. This is a little bit of a change for us this year. We have been partnering with a nonprofit body for several years, but the Criminal Justice Commission really stepped back and said, why are the courts in Oregon operating so differently from one another? In some counties, we were paying large portions of money to treatment for them to come to the table, and in other counties, they were paying them an hourly rate to come to the table. So the Criminal Justice Commission stepped back and said, we need to come up with a formula that's going to work for all of Oregon so that our courts look the same no matter what county you go to. So partnering with Marion County Health Department as our fiscal agent, and the local Public Safety Coordinating Council will be the grant applicant this year. So that is a little bit of a change for us this go-round. We're asking you today to vote and approve, well, them last night, they voted and approved the application that was prepared and presented to them for all 5 of our courts. Currently, again, the 5 treatment courts that we run are the Adult Treatment Court, our Mental Health Court, our Veterans Court. We have 2 juvenile courts. Fostering Attachment is a Family Dependency Court, and then our Juvenile Drug Court or STAR Court. A little bit of the history. In 2017-19, we asked for $438,000 to operate these 5 courts in our county. We are proposing an $813,957.38 increase. And those increases really are due to personnel, drug testing, and our client supports. Currently, we are operating a system for UAs that are on a random cycle, but they're not confirmed. So we're asking for the Criminal Justice Commission to award us enough money to ensure that those are accurately confirmed and reported back in a timely manner. We're also asking to pay for the probation officers who are serving on our local committees, and then also a 3/4 deputy district attorney position to support these drug courts as well. Each of our courts, with the exception of Adult Drug Court, will be serving 30 participants a month. Adult Drug Court will be serving 50 participants a month. And this again talks a little bit about the increase of client support. So a drug and alcohol clinician will be added to each of the teams, mental health specialists on 1 team, and a mental health support specialist on 2 of our teams. And then we'll also have mental health specialist peer mentors, which we have not had previously. I think I pretty much covered that one. Am I going backwards? Oh, increase in requested funding. So this is an example of what our current operations are and what we're currently asking for. That will give you an idea of the increase to support those positions that I just spoke of. The cost for the probation officers to support is $386,352, and that 3/4 position of the deputy district attorney is $195,174. So our additional support for personnel, including the mental health specialists, the treatment clinicians, is $637,638. Drug and alcohol testing, our contract that we're currently in, it was about $321. It was a minimum of 2 times a week observed and confirmed. Best practices for treatment courts are a random at least 3 times a week, no less than 10 times a month for each and every participant. Testing for alcohol, prescriptions, and exotic drugs are very necessary in the work that we do. So if you have a mental health participant, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to do a standard panel where we're looking for alcohol and methamphetamine. We really need to know if they're taking their medications. Those are the things that the judge needs to know about immediately so we can put a support system in place and get those people back on track. If you have somebody in Veterans Court whose primary substance is alcohol, if I'm testing for methamphetamine, it again doesn't make a lot of sense. I need to make sure that they're not drinking. So for the lab tech, we have for all 5 courts will be a contract of $182,000. And then it will show you the adult drug court is $128,000, mental health court $122,000, and veterans of $215,500. That seems like a lot of money to treat 30 participants. However, the testing for ETG and the ETS, which are the compounds that your body produces from alcohol, can be tested for 3 days after you have had an incident of drinking. That will give us the tools that we need to make sure that we have those people in the proper services. And then fostering attachment will have an increase to $56,000, and Star Court $56,000 as well. So our proposed 2019-21 is $2.8 million, which is a significant increase from the 1.4 that we asked for 2 years ago. So I'm pleased to announce the Public Safety Coordinating Council approved this yesterday. They will be the grant applicant, but we're also asking for the support of the Board of Commissioners to move forward with this application. Our deadline is tomorrow at 5 p.m. For grant submissions. Questions?
Well, just a comment how fast this all got put together from the notice we got from Criminal Justice Commission, and I think you alluded to this. Sorry, I had to step out, but there was a disconnect between what we were doing in Public Safety Coordinating Council and the grants we were getting and what was going on in the courts. And this is a really good thing. It's new, but it's a good thing to coordinate. And you can see up there during your presentation the increase, the parole and probation officers, the district attorney, the health department, all those things are coming together, and it's great to know that why we need that increase, from the state. And we'll see if there's the money there to actually fund it to that level, but it would certainly help us if we could
Correct.
achieve that.
Well,
Questions?
I hope there is the money.
Yeah.
We have an addiction and substance abuse problem in this community, as many communities do in the state of Oregon. I know you and Carrie, your department's worked really hard on this, and
Thank
so
you.
I'm grateful for your work, and I hope we can make it more robust.
Thank you.
I think it's especially important that we have a justice system that understands addiction and relapse and keeps our community safe, but partners with the folks that are really trying to get better.
Yes.
Good.
I don't have very much to add. I certainly support all these courts. I don't know if this is special that they'd have, but the juvenile drug court STAR seemed like it was thriving and having beneficial things in the state area where I ran into it. Then kind of went away. Is this an increase or return, or at least I guess continue it? Either way, I'm in favor.
So the juvenile drug court, Star Court, has been in operation since I have been employed, and that was actually the first court that I ever ran when I came to the courts in 2010. We did have kind of a decrease in the population and went through a restructuring of the program rules, and the intake and increase of that population is thriving now and has a lot better system so that the youth can really buy into it. It's hard for a 15 or 16-year-old to commit to a 2-year-long program. They want to get through something quickly. We want to make sure that we're delivering the necessary services that they need in a timely manner at the time they need it. Not just what we as adults think works, but we also got input from the youth about what works for them. A lot greater success rate as a result of that.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes,
I may.
sir.
Is the work of the probation staff, the juvenile department, is that helping with the Star Court and because they're working with families of the youth that are having problems? And they're really putting an effort into that. Is that helping with the juveniles?
Absolutely. When they have 2 dedicated probation officers, if the youth is in Star Court, they're assigned to that caseload. So those probation officers are doing that in-home work, going out and connecting the families with resources.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
make a motion to approve an order approving the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission Specialty Court Grant Program application for $2,864,762.70 for the 2019-21 biennium.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, okay. Thanks for your good work putting this together. Ryan, thank you for you and following up with all the good things. And I don't know how this all fits together with our budget committee and all that other stuff now, but
There'll be a supplemental budget.
I'm sure there will be once we figure out what the grant actually is, right? Yeah, and then we got the other JRI grant coming too, so it's amazing.
Yes.
It's a good example. Thank you for being here. So as our next board order, but I think this was a good example of how school districts have to go through and approve their budgets, but they don't even know what the budget is yet. It's like, okay.
Yes, I agree with that.
Consider approval of an order appointing who? Jan Fritz as the Marion County Chief Administrative Officer effective July 1st, 2019. John, I think you didn't bring my coffee, but she's promising to bring my coffee every day.
No, she's
so
not. I've told her that's
I'm
absolutely
going to make her
forbidden.
raise her right hand and swear, right?
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Chair, if I can, I'd like to present to you for your tough questions of Jan as my successor as Chief Administrative Officer starting July 1st. Jan has worked with me since '07 as a Deputy Chief Administrative Officer and also as a Personnel Officer. She knows the county in all of its ins and outs, probably better than I do because she's worked for the county longer than I have. But she's got the background that's needed for this kind of position. She's a good manager and really knows how to keep the county moving. Jan and I, when I first came here, I asked Jan to help me with the budget. She and I did the budget for several years all by ourselves. So she knows the county in and out, and I couldn't think of anybody that could be a better Chief Administrative Officer than Jan. So there, ask her tough questions, though.
Well, Jan Fritz, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Jan Fritz. I'd like to thank the Commissioners truly for your support. The position holds high responsibility, and I recognize that. I truly am committed and believe that public service is a noble calling. And I want you to know I feel honored and privileged to be a Marion County employee. To John Latimer, you have been a friend, a mentor for 16 years, and I thank you. You've truly, with your leadership, with your guidance and your expertise, have set the county on a solid foundation that we can build on, and I thank you for that too. I wish you the best in your retirement. Oh, you're going to make me cry. And we will truly miss you. And for the employees of Marion County who also believe in public service and deliver it day in and day out, I thank you, and I look forward to working with every one of you. Thank you. Questions?
You want to drill her now or drill her later?
Later.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have any drilling to do.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not, and you probably must have all agreed, I was the one that insisted that there be no interim label, that we have a person ready to go that I have the highest confidence in. And again, apparently you do too. So I'm just real pleased that she's willing to do it and feel confident that we'll continue on the same path of success and give me a nice positive word, more than success, leadership in Oregon. That's all. So if that grilled you, I'm sorry.
I told Jan that she shouldn't count on your vote this morning. I thought you might be up in the air on whether you're going to vote for or not.
No, you misread me then.
You know, I think actions speak louder than words, Jan, and I really appreciate your commitment to public service. I also think it's a noble calling, but more than that, I thank you and John for proving it over the years. It's one thing to sit up here and say, I believe in public service. It's another thing to show up every day, on the weekends, and doing the work that late at night to keep the budget balanced. And a lot of times I think folks sort of just assume that governments will not spend more than they have, will not waste taxpayer dollars. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And I think too often we take for granted the work that people like you and John do day in and day out to make sure that Marion County hasn't had budget crises. And when the downturns came, Marion County wasn't laying people off and services weren't being cut. That takes a lot of work. I know you've put that work in, and so I'm really grateful that you're willing to step up and continue that work over the next few years, or God willing, longer than that. So.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, I'm going to just say this as somebody who's been here. I got my 5-year pin last week, by the way. Thank you.
Kind of fluky,
Not
but
16.
I'm glad you got it.
Not 16 years, but as somebody who's been here for 5 years and been in the business world and in the legislature, I echo what you said, Jan, is that we are extremely blessed to be able to serve in Marion County. And John, you know, we've given you these accolades. Get out of here, right? I mean, I keep calling them the lame duck, but here's where we're at. I mean, the three of us are the Board of Commissioners, and we have our challenges. I think for the two of you, we're probably the biggest challenge you have is just dealing with us. And,
That's what I told Jan.
And just trying to, you know, make sure that we're going the right direction, that we're focused and giving us good advice and allowing us to make decisions that you bring to us with good information. And I look out there and I'm looking at department heads and employees that are here today and probably some that maybe watch this. And Marion County is just, I don't know that, I tell people all the time, I'm just really excited to work here, and I know with John leaving and you coming in, the confidence that we have in not only you but as a team, we're gonna have challenges. We just saw some of them this morning with water, and you know we got. Don't get me started. Senate Bill 451 with environmental services. We've got challenges coming at us from the legislature and from, you know, all places. You know, keeping public safety #1. All those challenges, though, I can't think of a better person that will help keep us together and go forward as John walks out the door with a great foundation. So I'm ready for a motion to approve Jan Fritz as our next Chief Administrative Officer.
I'll make that motion. I was looking, 3 different subjects, budget next, budget officer, and Representative Courthouse Square, but I guess they're all different subjects. So I will just make the motion that we approve an order that appoints Jan Fritz as Marion County Chief Administrative Officer effective July 1st, 2019. I should add until forever, but it doesn't say that.
I second the motion.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Well, that's behind us. So the next thing,
That was a tough one.
Board of Commissioners is consider approval of appointing Jan Fritz as the Marion County Budget Officer effective July 1st, 2019.
Mr. Chair, if I can, state statutes requires that governing bodies of municipalities and counties appoint a or a budget officer, and that budget officer then prepares a budget to present to the Budget Committee and the board. I considered it the most fun I had while being here, and Jan was right with me the whole way. So we spent a lot of time. When we first started this, Jan and I were doing the budget by ourselves. We worked nights and weekends and holidays, but got it done. I would like to say it's easier now that we have staff helping us, but it's just gotten to be more fun, I think, as we've gone through the years. there's been some issues here and there with the budget. 2008, that last quarter in 2008, I've never seen revenues drop so fast as they did in that one quarter, and then they just kept dropping through the first part of '09. And Jan helped me weather that storm, helped you weather that storm, so she can do this as well as anybody I know. So I really suggest that you promote or appoint Jan as the budget officer for the county.
Any discussion on that, or just a motion? Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an order appointing Jan Fritz as the Marion County Budget Officer effective July 1st, 2019.
Second?
A motion and a second approving Jan as the budget officer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, and then the next, the Jan Fritz show is under Board of Commissioners, consider approval of a resolution appointing Jan Fritz as the county's representative on Courthouse Square Condominium Association, and a memorandum of action electing Jan Fritz and Alan Pollock directors effective July 1st, 2019. Wow, in all my 5 years, I don't think John Latimer's been on here 3 times in a row.
Well, that's because this is a very important thing we're doing here today. This may seem like a minor thing, but it's not. The Condominium Association runs this whole complex that we have here in Courthouse Square. And I think it's a very important thing that we do to keep both the transit system and Marion County, all of the offices operating. One of the things when this building was closed down and the transit mall was closed down, Jan worked with me to help bring it back up, and I think the proof is in the pudding. We've got a really good building here and a good transit mall, and Jan knows the business, knows what it takes to do this. So I really recommend you appointing her to the condominium board.
Okay. Any discussion on that before we make a motion?
Just how it works, Alan's mentioned here too, this changes that, or we have a role in appointing it. I'm not quite sure why it's listed.
Well, the transit board has to approve him, and you have to approve both of them for the
Okay.
transit board. I mean, it works both ways. Both boards have to do this.
Okay, so we do have a role in it.
It's part of the state law and how you do a condominium. So.
Any comments from legal on that?
No, that's exactly right. So you're actually taking 2 actions today. You're appointing Jan to be the director, and then you're also designating her as your representative. And John was correct that both boards sign off on the directors. So
Okay.
it won't just be this board's signature for that.
All right, Chair Cameron, I make a motion that approves a recommendation of a resolution that appoints Jan Fritz as county's representative to Courthouse Square Condominium Association, and a memorandum of action electing Jan Fritz and Alan Pollock as directors effective July 1st, 2019.
Second the motion.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? I just have one comment. Jan, we never could get John to build that, what's the name of the Pikes Market thing out here? The little Pikes Market. So maybe in your tenure, we can figure out how to get that done.
Or a little neon sign that alerts everybody when you're coming in, for example.
Yeah, the market they have on Wednesdays, that would be so cool to have a little mini market out there. And, I remember going to meetings like 5 years ago on that thing. At least we got the market out there now on Wednesdays in the condominium, right? Good. I'll even buy you some strawberries if we get it year-round.
I'll try to be quiet on why
Okay,
this thing
good.
is taking so long.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, Jan, you are
It.
like it. No going back now.
Thank you so much, Commissioners.
Thank you.
I will work my hardest, truly. Thank you.
We know.
We'll just look forward to continue on, yeah. And I just want to echo again that it's not John, it's not Jan, it's not us, it's all of us. And there's a lot of department heads, elected officials in the room today that make this happen, and others that crank out the numbers on those budgets and do all keep us going. So give us good information. So thank you for all your service and what you do. And next up on our agenda is the clerk's office. Consider approval of amendment number 1 to the contract for services as Send It Direct Mail and Fulfillment, Inc. to add $97,300 for a total of $147,300 to direct mailing of ballots through December 31st, 2021. Clerk Burgess is here today.
Hi. Thank you, Commissioners. This is a contract to actually extend a contract that we've got now for inserting the ballots. We used to do this in-house, and it took about 40 people, about 6 days for 40 or so people to do the insertion of the ballots in the envelopes. We do it by precinct and sometimes splits within a precinct. There are different ballot styles. Sometimes we have between 123 is a minimum to 500 or more different ballot styles, and getting the right pieces in the right envelope is crucial, and getting them addressed properly is crucial. A couple of years ago, also because of the fact that we were bringing so much in the way of material, the hundreds of boxes of material to do this up the elevators and into our space and all, we looked around to see other possibilities. And we found one that some other counties were using up in Portland, close to the airport, Send It Direct. And they have their sorting machines and all. And so, and they're very accurate in what they do. And it's an economy of scale. So we've gone with them. In the past, we only had 1-year contracts for a couple years to see if we trusted it and if it was going to work real well, and it has. What we do now is we have to, we have a lot of the material, instead of coming here, sent there to begin with, and then we send employees. In fact, they'll stay overnight there for about 3 or 4, 3 nights, and work with the crew up there to make sure that everything is being done properly. And so we're only paying for 2 people to work through 3 days rather than 40 people to work through 6 days. We find that this is more accurate and all. We've got enough funding here, we believe, for another 5 elections over the next 2 years. 5 elections, we still have a little bit of money left, so that's why that little bit, about $15,000 plus what we have here, is probably going to be enough to get us through. Again, it's a guess because we never know how many elections we're really going to have. We don't know what the legislature may be doing. We've just heard now, of course, that we're going to have a January, or there's a really good chance we're going to have a January statewide election. So this will certainly get us through. If indeed it doesn't, we'll of course come back asking for more authority, but this will give us some stability for the next couple of years to go with this.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. Any questions for Bill? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve amendment number 1 to the contract for services with Send It Direct Mail and Fulfillment Incorporated to add $97,300 for a contract total of $147,300 for direct mailing of ballots through December 31st, 2021.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks, Bill.
Thank you very
for all
much,
you do.
Commissioners.
Okay, under finance, consider approval of a contract for services with Moss Adams LLP for $828,280 to provide audit services through February 28, 2025. Jeff, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for taking this time to review our new audit contract. We talked about this a little bit in our management update meeting, but for the public record, we have had the same auditors for several years and felt it was time to take a look at a change. There's always an opportunity to get a new look at things. We submitted or requested proposals be submitted this early year. We had 3 received. We had a scoring team in Marion County that included several people that kind of did the first round of scoring, identified the 2 highest, they were very close actually, firms. We brought in John and Jan and held some interviews and met the personnel who'd be involved. And ultimately Moss Adams rose to the top. They're a quality national firm with offices here in Oregon, and Portland, and Eugene. Their partner is well respected nationally, serves on a number of national committees and statewide committees. We are pleased to recommend this contract with Moss Adams. The contract is attached. There's just a few things I'd like to point out. It is a 5-year contract initially, with the option to renew for up to another 5 years. It could be renewed for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in that second term, depending on how satisfied we are with the services at that time. It is, as you mentioned, for $828,280 maximum contract. I'd like to go to it's almost the very back page, page 17, and kind of talk about those fees. What you'll see is there are 4 columns of fees included in that price. The county comprehensive annual financial report is the significant part of the audit. You'll see for 18-19, that's about $82,000. The single audit, which is required for, it's an independent report over our federal funds. That's another $24,000. We need some assurance services on our landfills. That's a couple $1,000s. The column other services likely won't be incurred. As part of the contract, we asked for a rate if we had special circumstances come up where we might need additional consulting or anything like that. We just wanted to get that worked into the contract. That would allow us to incur those services if necessary. We haven't incurred such in our past years of audits. It's just an opportunity. You'll see a little note under the schedule there that talks about the single audit fees could be increased. There's a formula for how audit firms are required to perform that single audit and how many programs become major programs. It gets a little bit complex. Typically we have 3 major programs. Those are that's what identifies the $24,900 amount. If Moss Adams coming in new has a different way of identifying major programs, they might need to do a couple more major programs. It's a lot of work, so we built in the ability to provide payment for up to 2 more. If it goes beyond that, and I would be stunned if it did, but if it did, we'd have to come back with an amendment. So likely the fees will never approach the $838,000 range, but the pricing was actually better than we expected. We're about $14,000 more than our last year's audit services. That was a really good rate for us. We anticipated up to $40,000 more, so we're happy about that. The only other thing I'd like to point out is back a few pages, on page 12, it identifies the scope of work that the auditors will do, all the reports they'll produce. But particularly in number 13, we point out that it indicates as part of the audit process, the contractors shall meet with the Marion County Board of Commissioners prior to the start of the audit, and then later at the conclusion of the audit, the contractor will present the CAFR and the federal grant compliance report to the Marion County Board of Commissioners. It's key, as Mr. Ladder pointed out Monday, that the public understand this audit is on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and management, not on behalf of Jeff White and our finance department. You'll have the opportunity to ask them any questions, any areas you're particularly concerned about prior to the audit, to give them any direction you might have. Ask whatever you are curious about how they go about their audit services. At the conclusion, they'll provide a report of what they found, their audit opinion, and any recommendations they may have for improvement. We'll be scheduling that shortly. We're going to start their interim work in a couple of weeks where they look at our controls. We may not have that entrance conference prior to that, but soon, so that you can meet the auditors and give them your direction. With that, if there's any questions. Oh, one last thing. This contract does not include the additional service districts or the Cable Regulatory Commission. Those are much smaller contracts. Moss Adams will be doing that work also. We'll bring those contracts to you prior to those being executed also.
Thanks, Jeff. And those contracts will be approved by the boards of those particular entities at that time, of which?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, any questions for Jeff this time? Commissioner?
I just have a couple of comments. One, I think it's a testament to the health of this organization that we bring in an outside auditor. And I have the very high regard for you and your team, as you know, and I think the integrity of our finance department and Jan and John is incredibly high. But I think it just speaks to that you're looking to bring in somebody to just make sure that everything's done right, and I think it gives the people of Marion County a lot of confidence in this organization. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then the other thing I wanted to say is we talked a little bit about why this is a 5-year contract on management update, because it seems like a long contract, but as you mentioned, this is pretty standard for the industry and necessary for the auditor to really understand what we do and how it works. It takes a few years for them to really be able to kind of get up to speed. So.
Yes.
Thank you.
John?
Mr. Chair, if
Wait
I
a minute,
might.
yeah, wait, we just elected somebody else.
No,
Appointed-
July 1st.
We appointed somebody else.
July 1st.
So we still gotta listen to him?
Yes, you still got to listen to me.
All right.
I act like I'm listening to him.
Yeah, I know, you never do. This, again, is required by state law of all municipal governments in the state. And something, you're not the only ones that get to review this audit, because the State Audit Division also reviews all municipal audits. So it gets a lot of review. It's an important function. The reports need to be read, as I've said to you so many times, because they'll give you information that you need to know about the operations of the county and its finances.
Okay. Is your motion?
Yes. Chair Cameron, I would make a motion to approve a contract for services with Moss Adams LLP for $828,280 to provide audit services through February 28th, 2025. And just one little comment, this is kind of a rotation. We used to do it more often between accounting firms, not saying any criticism one over the other, just that the validity of a change-up to give a different view every so often. So we've had wonderful support working with the prior, and look forward to doing the same with Moss Adams.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
Appreciate it. All right, patiently waiting. Public Works, consider approval of a public improvement agreement with R.L. Reimers Company for the construction of a new fuel station at Browns Island Demolition Landfill for $139,861 to be completed by August 31st. Why do I think we've already done this 2 or 3 times? All right, Ryan, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Nicholas, Public Works Director.
And Ryan Crother, Marion County Capital Projects Manager. All right, we're here today to talk about the Browns Island Demolition Landfill Fueling Station construction contract. The project is located at the Browns Island Fueling Station, which is southwest of the city of Salem, near the Willamette River. Currently, there's an existing diesel tank. It's a 5,000-gallon diesel tank. It's located within the future footprint of the of the landfill.
That's 500, not 5,000, right?
Or 500, excuse me.
Right.
All right, our construction plan would install a 1,500-gallon diesel tank as well as a 500-gallon gasoline tank, which would give us the ability to fuel gasoline vehicles at the landfill. We'd also install an oil water separator, which would prevent any spills from making its way to the river. Our project schedule would be June 2019 to August of 2019. And as stated, the low bid was R.L. Reimers Company at $139,861. We would ask that you consider approval of the public improvement agreement with R.L. Reimers Company for the construction of the new fueling station.
All right. Pretty straightforward on this one. I think we've had this at management update as well. I know we've talked about this, about why we need this.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the public improvement agreement with RL, Reimers Company for the construction of a new fuel station at the Browns Island Demolition Landfill for $139,861 to be completed by August 31st, 2019.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Ryan, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, and then you're up again. Consider approval of a grant agreement with Western Federal Lands Highway Division for the North Fork Slide Stabilization for $7,322,810 through December 31st, 2022.
All right. And again, Ryan Crother with Marion County Capital Projects. We would enter into an agreement with Western Federal Lands Highway Division for the North Fork Road Slide Stabilization. The project is located on North Fork Road between milepost 4.9 and 5.5, which is near the city of Mill City. The scope of this project would include stabilization or mitigation of slides number 2, 3, and 4 as shown in the exhibit here. Slide number 1 was stabilized by the county in 2011. We would also, following stabilization of these slides, reconstruct the roadway to a 22-foot wide asphalt concrete surface, paved surface, and do any miscellaneous work required if we need guardrails, excavation, striping, anything that comes along with this project. As many of you know, this is located within the gravel section of North Fork Road. This is gravel because of the slide. As you can see in these photos, the slide has damaged the roadway to the point where it takes having it as a gravel roadway to maintain this section. We did receive a federal grant for this project, so the federal share would be 89.73%, or $6,570,757. The county would be responsible for covering the remainder, or 10.27%. That would be $752,053. This gives us a total project estimate of $322,810. Which should give the county the budget to design and build this improvement. Currently, our schedule is we expect to begin preliminary design in 2019, final design in 2020, and construct between 2021 and 2023. We would ask that you approve the entering into the agreement with Western Federal Lands Highway Division for the North Fork Road Slide Stabilization Project.
I'm just here to say, yes, this is the long-awaited landslide stabilization project funding that we've been working on for quite a long time. Western Federal Lands finally came through with the financial agreement, and that's what you have in front of you.
So this is the FLAP grant we got like 4 years ago, right?
Yes, it is.
That we're now
Yep.
being able to implement.
Yeah, at Federal Highways End, they had some program changes that slowed things down for a year. They worked out all those details, and then had a changeover of personnel. So it took time to get to this point, but we are ready to begin getting a consultant on board to do the design and the development of the project as soon as we have the federal funds obligated.
Question, Western Federal Lands Highway Division, what other types of projects have they done that are similar to the one they're going to take on? Because this is a huge deal up in that.
Yes.
North Fork.
The highway divisions within Federal Highway, Federal Highway is built so that they support the state highway departments, but there are some federal lands that don't have a highway department to take care of them. Think of the roads inside national parks and some other roads that are on national forest lands. The extension of North Fork Road up to Opal Creek, where it leaves county jurisdiction, that is a forest access highway, or used to be called a forest access highway. The highway divisions within FHWA, they're the highway department that takes care of those bits of road.
Well, that doesn't help me because I've driven that road and it's not very good. So
typically,
tell me something we're going to get out of these guys.
Typically, what they do is they contract with local agencies to take care of those roads for them, and this is an example.
So you feel confident, and this is a federal agency, basically.
It is, yes.
That will potentially subcontract some of this work out?
No, this one, actually, since this one is on our county right away, it's entirely our project. We're just eligible for the federal funds. By repairing the road, what we're doing is we're reestablishing the access upriver to that federal segment of roadway.
Yeah.
That's where the eligibility comes from.
Okay, so we're going to do this work, or we're going to find a contractor to do this work for us?
We will, the plan is it's a big enough project, we just don't have the manpower to tackle everything. So this one we're going to put out to a consultant team to develop, and we'll go through our normal bidding process and to hire a construction contractor to build it once the design is done.
So that piece of the road reminds me of on Highway 22, when you get up to just Detroit, where they've had that curve that goes up and down, and they're constantly like, where they use gunite or something on the stabilize it. I mean, you're gonna have to do that kind of stuff on the downside as well as secure the top.
Yeah, there's some similar landslide dynamics happening on North Fork Road. That's the whole reason for the preliminary design. We'll get the geotechs involved, and they'll figure out what the most economical solution is.
All right.
Yep.
Questions?
Well, I do. Just kind of more the practical things, but you indicated you haven't even chosen who does it yet, so I'm wondering about schedule. Kind of tough to get around. You can still go over the top from gates, I guess, but limited options there, so you really don't want to have it blocked for too long. And can you talk about the practical things, how it'll happen?
Yeah, part of the preliminary design process is going to have to include a constructability plan. Just how are we going to get this thing built? And that's part of what we need to figure out during that design phase. There could be a point where we need to close segments for a day or two and have folks come over Gates Hill Road, but the grade is not ideal, so we don't want people to rely on that, especially in winter. So that'll be part of the constructability plan. Interestingly enough, the road has slid far enough that we can build, it's kind of slid out of the right-of-way. We can build a new road in the right-of-way and then demo the old road. Oh. So that could be how this gets built.
Well, that brings up the last question I have, is that I know it's been sliding, we fixed it, it slid. Yep. So what changes now? Has enough come down to take that pressure off? Will you be doing something that stops that motion? What?
Typically, on this kind of landslide, there'd be two treatments that we'd consider. One, when rainwater gets in that landslide mass, it saturates it, it adds to the weight of the mass, and that, of course, encourages it to slide. So one of the measures we do is get that water out of there. So some horizontal drains, they're called.
I think you've done some of those already. I've seen.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep.
What I'm looking
so
at?
that will help de-water that mass. Okay. So it'll reduce the weight of the soil, and actually water acts as a lubricant. It kind of lubricates the landslide. Get that water out of there. That's usually one of the primary things that we do in this kind of landslide. And then some sort of buttressing or soil nails or retaining walls, something else. Usually there's some areas where you need to add some mechanical measures to hold that earth back.
Well, we're hoping this will be the final go and long term.
Yep.
Let's see if I have it. I would make a motion that we do approve the grant with Federal Western Lands Highway Division for the North Fork Road Slide Stabilization for $7,322,810, and it's through December 31st, 2022.
I'll second the motion.
We had a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just a question. Brian, can you give us an estimate on when this work will be completed by?
It should take us about a year to design it, about one more year to get right-of-way issues resolved, and then that third year is when we begin construction.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that's done. That concludes our normal business. Thank you, gentlemen, for being patient.
Thank
you. And Commissioner, if you want to read the calendar, we'll get her going here.
Today is Wednesday, June 12th. We're in Board Session Center hearing room. This afternoon at noon, we have the SEDCOR monthly business lunch located at Broadway Commons, 1300 Broadway Street Northeast in Salem. This afternoon at 3:15, we have a meeting with Dan Jarman per ORS 192.640, paragraph 3, located in the Oregon State Capitol Rotunda, 900 Court Street Northeast in Salem. This afternoon at 3:30 in the afternoon, there is a meeting with Senator Peter Courtney per ORS 192.640, paragraph 3, located in the Oregon State Capitol, room S201, 900 Court Street Northeast in Salem. This evening at 6 o'clock, we have the Aurora Dollar Interchange Improvements Phase 1 public meeting located at Christ Lutheran Church, 15029 2nd Street Northeast in Aurora. Tomorrow, Thursday, June 13th at 7:30 in the morning, we have the Kaiser Marion County meeting located at Sherry's Restaurant, 4998 River Road North in Kaiser. At 9 a.m. tomorrow, June 13th, we have the Marion County Sheriff interviews located in the Senator Hearing Room, that's this room, on the first floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. Tomorrow, Thursday, June 13th at 1 in the afternoon, we have a memorial service for Senator Jackie Winters, located in the Senate chambers of the Oregon State Capitol, 900 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On Friday, June 14th at 5:30 in the evening, we have a retirement celebration for Julie Huckstein, located at the Shemekada Yola Wine Studies Center, 215 Dokes Ferry Road Northwest in Salem. On Monday, June 17th at 8:30 in the morning, we have calendar review located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On Monday, June 17th at 9 in the morning, we have management update located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On Monday, June 17th at 3 in the afternoon, we have a Marion County Extension 4-H Service District public hearing to adopt the fiscal year 2019-20 budget in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On Tuesday, June 18th at 9 in the morning, we have a work session on economic development and the North Santiam Sewer Project update, located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On Tuesday, June 18th at 1:30 in the afternoon, we have a work session on economic development, and it's our quarterly update, located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. And then on Wednesday, June 19th at 9 in the morning, we'll be back here for board session in this room, in this building.
Busy week. How was your week? Or what do you want to talk about?
Well, someone's just come in. I wonder if they have some business they're trying to do here, or?
No, I was upstairs and I heard the board session was still going on. I wanted to make sure.
Oh, fine. I don't know
Well,
if it's going
I was
okay,
just gonna
but-
say.
It's gone through.
Yeah.
Well, we have a little mini heat wave. I noticed, what did I see?
Yeah.
8 o'clock and about 80-some degrees. I don't know if I want to go out there again. That'll put the first impacts on our different communities and water systems. Timely conversation this morning. I said this, but thinking about it, Salem and the county health department will really have a better response for these water problems than we had a year ago. So that should be reassuring to people. It was really seat of the pants and distributing, getting information out. They did a good job last year, but it's been the learning curve has happened, I hope.
Yeah, it was a topic last night. Like I said, I was up at Detroit City Council, and that was one of their topics was the algae bloom and the fear of the algae bloom and all that. And the other thing that they were talking about last night as I was listening was the expected influx of up to 200 workers up there.
Oh, sure.
And how are they gonna house them and deal with them and be prepared for them? And of course, somebody turned over to me, I was sitting in the audience, and says, "What can the county do to help us?"
No, you're gonna rent out your extra rooms.
I said, well, you probably need to make a plan of what you think's gonna happen, and put your plan together, and then present it and see if there's any resources or support that we can give you.
Just to let you know, there was a proposal, and I don't know where it's gone, but to expand and use some campground spots up in Detroit. Lynn County's interested in it. We may want to be, but maybe those should happen to help accommodate that.
Well, and the other thing was, they've got RV places up there in the wintertime. They're totally empty. So in the wintertime, that's not a problem, but as that construction season goes through the summertime.
I don't know if I'd want to live in an RV up there for
in the snow?
winter. Yeah, it'd be long.
In 3 feet of snow, right. Yeah, so they're working on that.
If I could change subjects just a little bit, mention very quickly the Donald Interchange. We've had some meetings on this, a project that's moving very fast. And it really affects all of Marion County, not just north, but the impacts that it's had to the freeway, the accidents in the area, the impacts from Newburgh-Dundee bypass. Getting some real movement. First phase, I heard different numbers, $22 to $25 to design and do some initial construction.
25 million.
Yeah. And then long range, the second to make a permit. But that is an interchange that's a bottleneck and a dangerous one. And I'm so tickled that they're going to be moving it quickly and trying to get something done there. And what I'm bringing up for tonight in Aurora is a presentation if people are interested. You probably just read that. I can give it to you again. In fact, I need to know where to go.
I think it's the Aurora City Council, isn't it?
No, it was at a church.
Oh, church, yeah.
Christ Lutheran?
Christ Lutheran, what's that address called? Let me grab that for you. Oh, here, I see it right now. 15029 2nd Street in Aurora, and that starts at 6 o'clock. So if people are interested in what's happening there, it's available. And again, a very good thing for Marion County and the whole region.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run.
Okay.
To my next meeting, but.
Oh, you better fill your water.
Yeah,
bottle.
As always, is good
This
for.
is probably one of the longer
doing
board
business with
sessions
you.
you've had since you've been here, huh?
Yeah.
I haven't had any of these.
We got a lot done today.
Yeah, okay.
Got a new chief administrative officer. That's pretty good.
Seat's waiting for you. What do we got? A couple more weeks of this? Do we have to listen to him go one in your ear and out the
Every subject now?
Yeah,
You caught that? I mean, it's all right.
other? He wants to try to educate us on his way out.
Doesn't want to miss
I think
a
we're
lick.
ready to adjourn. We've had too much fun today.